Chapter 21. Goodbye to My Past Self. Jiangju froze. What kind of person would even say something like that? He glanced around in disbelief. A bald woman snickered. A languid woman stifled a chuckle. Even the cat seemed to be grinning. Jiangju nearly wanted to cook Barry a nice meal, hold him down, and force-feed it until he apologized. "You actually think I'm the Reverse Flash?" he said, utterly speechless. Barry immediately regretted what he'd blurted. He'd been on edge. Everything about Reverse Flash burned in him. It had been a reflex. He jumped at a familiar, hateful possibility. "Sorry, Jiang," he stammered. "I got carried away. I brought you a gift, and you still doubted me." Jiangju made no move to accept the apology. He handed the small ring he'd been holding to Barry instead. Barry noticed Jiang's expression had hardened. Anger, not the playful sadness and joy he'd seen before. He looked to Harrison Wells for help, the man he both respected and trusted. Harrison was, to Barry, a mentor and a friend. "I don't like this," Jiangju said at last. "You're staring at him. Why don't you ask where these things came from?" Where did they come from? Didn't Cisco and the others capture Reverse Flash?" Barry asked, confused. "You doubt me, a stranger who's never been to that world," Jiang snapped. "But you don't doubt the people around you?" He was on the verge of exploding. "If you weren't my friend, I'd toss you to the moon." Barry's face went pale. He turned to Harrison, desperation and accusation mingling. "What's going on?" Harrison's composure broke. Perhaps he realized there was no going back. He gave up whatever pretense he'd been maintaining. "Are you asking if I'm Reverse Flash, if I killed your mother?" Barry's voice thickened. He grabbed Harrison by the collar and slammed him against the bookshelf. Harrison laughed once, cold and frothing with malice. "Yes, it was me. I'm the nightmare you can't wake from, Flash. You found friends here, but you will never be happy." "Why?" Barry demanded. Red flared in his eyes. "Why did you do it? Why did you kill my mother?" Harrison's lips curled. "Because of you. You were always my goal. I wanted to kill you, but you stopped me in the future, so I had to take the next thing that mattered to you." Barry lunged like he wanted to strike, but Jiangju stepped in. He had very simple rules in his tavern. No fighting, no brawling. "Enough," he said calmly. "Barry, I'm not going to let you turn this into a fight. If this were anyone else, I'd take away the ability they bragged about and leave them powerless in my shop." Barry tried to wrench free, snarling, "He killed my mother, this man Jiangju." He found his hands immovable. Tears glimmered in his eyes. The rage at Harrison, the grief for his mother, the bitter injustice toward his incarcerated father, it all tangled together until he could barely breathe. Finally, he lowered his hands. "Sorry to interrupt everyone's evening," Jiangju said, shrugging as if to change the mood. "Drinks on me." That broke the tension. The other customers, having gathered what little information they'd been able to piece together, were in no mood to defend Harrison. Two young men in traditional Chinese dress, who had been listening with particular sympathy, approached Barry. Over the last hour, they had compared experiences and realized they all carried scars from cruel fates, losses that had shaped them. One of the men, hesitant but kind, poured a glass and handed it to Barry. "It's over now," one of the women murmured softly to Barry's pale, handsome face. "Everything's over." "Yeah," the man said. He looked at the woman beside him and at his companion, and a tired, small smile appeared. Fate had been rough to them too, but they'd broken away and found a quieter life. If not for the strange door that had opened in their valley, none of them would be here now. The eccentric-looking brother patted the hand of the woman at his side, then took his wine and walked over to Barry. "You should be relieved," he said gently, handing over the glass. "You don't have to be deceived by him anymore, and you should thank our host Jiang. We all meet things in life, setbacks, tragedies, but you're luckier than we were to have met him." The tavern's strange magic translated speech for everyone, so language was no barrier. Barry, still dazed, accepted the glass and managed a quiet, "Thank you." He didn't know how to express the right words of gratitude, but the kindness landed like a salve. Jiangju explained, partly because Barry asked and partly to ease the moment. "His past isn't that different from yours. As a child, someone killed his parents. That someone raised his brother to turn them against each other. In the end, they escaped that fate, found lives of their own. He's come a long way." Barry listened and finally drank. He had nothing immediate to say, but this stranger's compassion helped. When you go back to deal with your father and with Harrison Wells, Jiang said, you can go thank him properly. Barry nodded, uncertain. Jiang's expression softened. Now for the important part, he said. He reached toward Harrison Wells and gently grasped his wrist, turning it like a valve. Something uncanny rippled over Harrison's features. The man's pleasant facade seemed to peel away, revealing a gaunter, more sinister figure beneath, a shock of blonde hair and a face that made Barry's stomach drop. The true shape of the man, Albert Swan, stared back. Barry stared. Who is he? Your parents' real killer is a madman from your future, Jiang said lightly. He's not the man you thought he was. Jiang produced a small gourd, barely the size of Barry's thumb, and handed it to him. This will make him tell the truth, Jiang explained, but only about the murder of your mother. He won't be able to lie about that. He won't spill everything. You shouldn't want him to. Some things must stay secret between you and what you are. Barry took it, shaking with a mixture of hope and dread. He didn't fully understand Jiang's methods, but he felt gratitude. Thank you, he said, voice heavy. I misjudged you. It's all right, Jiang said. Helping you is my apology to my past self. After this, there's no more tie between us. The next time I come back, you'll just be another person to me. My past self wanted me to tell you one thing. He liked your smile. Keep it. With that, Jiangju waved his right hand. In a flash of light, Barry Allen and Albert Swan vanished from the tavern. Boss Jiang, are you okay? Gu Yi asked, worry creasing his face. Jiangju smiled faintly. I'm fine, he said. I just said goodbye to my past self. Chapter 22. Tony is here. Barry Allen left, taking Reverse Flash with him. He looked a little regretful, and in doing so, he carried away one of Jiangju's old obsessions. Odin and Gu Yi watched him go, still worried, but Jiangju merely smiled and said he had nothing left to worry about. What do you mean, nothing? Odin asked, frowning and staring at Jiang with his remaining eye. A god's dignity can't be violated, even unintentionally, Jiangju shrugged. The person who liked the Flash was me when I was human, not me now, the tavern owner Jiangju. So you mean it was an obsession you had before, and you've cut it off? Gu Yi, who knew some Taoist ideas, asked. Maybe, Jiangju answered. This tavern is the sum of all my obsessions. When they're gone, I may be gone too. Xiao He, who'd been lounging nearby, couldn't help himself. He's lying, he blurted. The Flash was his obsession, and he didn't kill it. No, he's just worried about the backlash if Barry gets offended, so he says stuff like that. Give it time. He'll be just as obsessive. Xiao He, you've been talking a lot lately. Have you hit breeding age? Want me to do a sterilization operation? Jiangju said with a dark expression. He stalked over, grabbed Xiao Hai by the ears, and tossed him onto the floor. Gu Yi breathed out in relief. Good to know he's not serious. That's the boss we remember, Odin said, smiling faintly. Even though he'd only known Jiangju a short while, he liked this gruffer version. Wait, so I'm only a joke? Jiangju asked, putting Xiao Hei's ears back in place and turning to Odin. Odin swallowed. In front of Jiangju, he had lost all the majesty of the king of Asgard. No, I didn't mean that, he stammered. Okay, that's enough. We're closing. Jiangju announced irritably. The Ancient One and Odin exchanged glances and stood. Odin pulled out a wine barrel and a sack of gold coins and strode toward the rack. But his love of treasure made him forget his earlier dignity, and he hurried over. King of Asgard, what would you like? Jiangju asked. A bucket of dew of life, Odin said without preamble. Jiangju shook his head. The dew of life can only be drunk here. Its magic depends on me being present. If you want to help your wife or your kin, bring them here. I'm not saying you can't. He tried to sell something else instead. Last time I gave you solar water, good for slow healing. No matter how serious the injury, it helps. That's treating symptoms, not the root, Odin grumbled. Then bring the people you love to drink the dew, Jiangju urged. I'm not refusing you. Odin hesitated and finally put the bottle back into his bag. Then, not today. Jiangju, unwilling to lose the sale, pushed another bottle forward. The blue enchantress I mixed last time makes your wife younger, more beautiful. Odin balked and, true to his thrift, refused. Jiangju glowered, picked up the sack of coins Odin had placed on the counter, and chucked it back at him. You stingy god, he muttered, sulking on his throne. Ancient One and Odin left with a little helpless laughter. The Ancient One opened a portal through the main entrance and stepped through, while Odin used the travel gate for guests. Jiangju had recorded Asgard's coordinates for him, but the trip always began over the Rainbow Bridge. Once they were gone, Jiangju hung the closed sign and sat brooding. What he'd said earlier wasn't entirely a lie. Helping Barry had fulfilled something he'd wanted back when he'd been human. But his parting words to Barry, "We will no longer be friends," were untrue. He'd said them to keep Barry safe. Whether anyone liked it or not, Jiangju was still a god, and gods' friendships had power and consequences. Xiaohei had warned him, if he didn't sever ties cleanly, Barry might suffer for it. There was a knock on the door. Jiangju ignored it. He'd closed for the night. Yet whoever it was kept knocking. One of them even banged on the window opposite the throne. Jiangju looked up. Outside were men in black suits, bodyguards, and a black car parked in front of the tavern, blatantly ignoring the no parking sign. "Do you want me to go deal with them?" Xiaohei muttered sleepily. He'd only just been waking from a dream about chatting with a giant panda. "Let it go. This is Barry's mess," Jiangju said, getting to his feet without expression. "He brought the village chief of the Marvel neighborhood to my doorstep." The bodyguards moved forward as he opened the door, but Jiangju physically blocked them. "Tell your boss to come in himself. Not everyone can come here. And I'm not in a good mood. If you make a move, I won't go easy." The bodyguards, surprisingly disciplined, stepped back and radioed the man in the car. Tony Stark didn't storm in. He'd just finished answering questions from the police and the FBI and had tracked Barry's signal here. He stepped out now, taking in the tavern and its decor with a disdainful look. "This is such tasteless decoration," Tony said loudly, walking toward the entrance without much ceremony. "Can I hit you with a moon?" Jiangju asked, very politely. Tony stopped mid-sneer. "Huh." The air changed. Tony glanced up, bewildered, as the moon in the sky above them seemed to swell, growing larger and larger. For a moment there was nothing he could do but watch as the moon expanded and came down, colliding with him in a surreal cinematic thud. Chapter 23. The Taste of Happiness. 9 times in a row, Tony Stark had been struck in the face by tiny, orbiting planets, and each time he could only stare, utterly helpless. If Jiangju hadn't been merciful, the press would have had a field day. Famous American playboy Tony Stark loses control outside tavern, complete with a scandalous photo. The thought was almost enough to make Jiangju laugh, but she'd already exacted her punishment and was done with it for now. "Ah, Mr. Tony Stark, what brings you to my shop?" Jiangju asked with perfectly innocent cheer. Tony, pale and shaken, stared at her. "Who are you?" he managed, terrified even after being pummeled by celestial bodies. "Just the tavern owner," Jiangju answered as casually as if nothing out of the ordinary had happened. Tony didn't buy it, but with his nerves frayed, he didn't press the point. He glared one last time, then turned and, with his bodyguards in tow, left the tavern, completely forgetting why he'd come in the first place. No wonder. If she hadn't let him off easy, most people would have collapsed from shock. "You're as terrible as ever," Xiaohei said lazily, flipping over and squinting at the sun. "Tony Stark? Unlikable." Jiangju shrugged. They were complaining about the decor, weren't they? Xiaohei, basking in a sunbeam, smirked, mouthing something that might as well have been courting death. The expression did not sit well with Jiangju. Her face darkened, a mischievous glint lit her eyes, and a crooked smile appeared. A faint, dramatic shadow seemed to pool around her. "Ah, did the sun go down? Why is it suddenly cold?" Xiaohei yawned slowly. Thanks to Jiangju's little temporal trick, his movements were all drawn out, his protest stretched into a long, slow sigh that sounded like it came from another time. "What do you mean, don't use your strength on me?" Xiaohei's voice dragged on painfully. Jiangju, in full domineering mode, seized him and gave him a firm, no-nonsense massage, pressing and kneading until the red panda's protests dissolved into relaxed purrs. "I wouldn't dare. You have the best tastes in the entire multiverse," Xiaohei blurted, finally managing to finish the sentence and immediately realizing how obsequious it sounded. When normal time returned, Jiangju smoothed down Xiaohei's ruffled fur with a small whistle. "Although that sounds fake, since you're my only partner, I'll forgive you," she teased, gently settling him on the cat chair. I always knew you were the best, Brother Jew, Xiaohei purred, enjoying it inwardly, even as he silently griped. Since you say that, Xiaohei, I'll cook for you today, Jiangju announced brightly. I learned a new recipe from Stephen Zhou. Xiaohei froze. Are you sure? He asked, fear prickling down his spine. There was no arguing with her once she'd made up her mind. Of course, I've been practicing secretly to make you something delicious, Jiangju said, eyes shining with that puppyish, praise me now look. Xiaohei was cornered. Normally he'd deflect with a joke, but now there was no escape. He blinked, then mustered the most sincere expression he could. I'm so touched, Jiangju. You're so kind. Don't worry, Xiaohei. I'll make you taste happiness, Jiangju said, wrapping a length of red cloth around her forehead like a battle band. The strip fluttered behind her, the bold characters on it read, in spirit if not exact wording, Fight! She looked utterly ridiculous and utterly determined. I guess this isn't the first time, Xiaohei muttered and then, resigned, raised his short right paw, curled his claws into a tiny fist and spoke seriously. You can do it, Jiangju. Jiangju struck a dramatic pose. Leave it to me. The headband fluttered, and for a beat she was all earnest, over-the-top willpower. Hey, no running away this time, she added more calmly, remembering past fiascos. I've already accepted my fate, okay? Xiaohei said, trying to sound brave. Didn't you say the same thing last time? Jiangju eyed him coolly. Start your performance then. Sourly, Xiaohei thought about future escape plans. This one definitely held grudges. He tried a new tack. Why not bring me with you? Why didn't I think of that? Jiangju smirked, tapping her chin. It is your fault. Your IQ must be lagging. My IQ is not lagging, Xiaohei protested reflexively, then, like a true performative actor, immediately apologized without changing his expression. I'm sorry. I admit my mistake. You're apologizing and claiming your IQ is lacking. Jiangju stared at him with deadpan eyes. I apologize. Jiangju, please don't trick me. I've admitted it. I'm sincere. What more do you want? Xiaohei pleaded, genuinely trying to look repentant. Jiangju couldn't help but laugh. Ha! See? You haven't learned at all. I knew you were lying just now. Kill me now. I can't live anymore. Xiaohei wailed dramatically, hairs on end from the humiliation, flinging himself into melodrama the only way a red panda could. Jiangju rolled her eyes, but the grin on her face made it clear she wasn't about to let him get away with anything, especially not his colorful theatrics. She had a new dish to prepare, and Xiaohei was, whether he liked it or not, her guest of honor. Chapter 24, Concerns from Braised Eggs. Jiangju and Xiaohei were still enjoying themselves, blissfully unaware that someone had noticed the odd little episode at the tavern. Nick Fury had been watching the footage, and after piecing together what he could, had flagged a few anomalies. He decided to look into the bar more closely. We need to know more about this place, he told his assistant with a steady voice. Agent Maria Hill raised an eyebrow. Do you really think there's any connection between the Flash and this bar? She asked. Tony Stark wouldn't normally be interested in a neighborhood tavern. Especially after being turned away like that, Nick replied. The footage showed Stark arriving, knocking, being denied entry, and then leaving. That should have been the end of it. But Fury's instincts were rarely satisfied by appearances. I'll have people keep an eye on the place, Hill said. She also checked the cameras around the bar to see if they'd captured anything else. Initially, she found nothing of note. No ties to organized crime, no records of suspicious visitors. The bar's owner, a man named Jiangju, had no criminal record and no obvious background that would raise red flags. He'd arrived in the country, inherited a small coffee shop from an uncle, and converted it into a bar. Hill looked up from the file with a touch of impatience. He's ordinary. No special name, no criminal history, just an ordinary guy. One of her agents, who'd been assigned to the task, piped up. Do we keep investigating, or do we pick him up now? Shield usually moves fast when there's nothing to suggest a political or high-level connection. Hill had seen both approaches in action. Sometimes they courted the rich and powerful, other times they took a hard line. She knew how her team liked to resolve things quickly. Still, the cautious streak in Nick's reputation made her think twice. Hold off for now, Hill said. I'll report to the director. When she returned to Fury's office, Nick was still replaying the bar footage. He'd been staring at the screen for a long time. Hill handed him the dossier on Jiangju. Very ordinary, she said. Too ordinary, Nick muttered, skimming the file. Jiangju's records were thorough. Birth certificate, school history, the move to the United States, inheritance of a small coffee shop, then conversion to a bar. Everything was complete and mundane in the file. Still, Fury's gut told him something was off. Send a few people to watch him, he ordered, but don't make contact. Just observe. Why? Hill asked. She didn't see what warranted the extra caution. Nick looked at her, eyes narrowed. Why did he turn Tony Stark away? And more importantly, why did Stark accept it and leave? Hill blinked. It did seem odd. If Tony Stark was not a man who accepted refusals gracefully, especially not from a local bar owner, to see him walk away without pushing further was, in Fury's mind, a small anomaly worth monitoring. All right, Hill said, nodding. I'll put a surveillance detail on him, and keep it low profile. Good, Fury said, then resumed watching the footage. Meanwhile, Tony had gone back to his New York residence. Despite the business empire he ran across the country, he kept a base in New York and wanted answers now that something bizarre had happened to him. Tony, I heard you were shot at. Are you all right? Pepper Potts asked, voice tight with worry. I'm fine, Tony said, though his expression betrayed him. He looked shaken. I need to get back to the lab and figure out what happened. I've already arranged transport, Pepper said. Oh, Mr. Stan called about your situation. Put him through later, Tony said. I need to rest. Let him deal with those people. He rubbed his temple. He felt battered, as if someone had slammed him repeatedly, not physically severe, but rattling enough. Pepper, however, wasn't satisfied. She noticed the pallor on his face and the way he flinched at small noises. You don't look well, Tony. We should get you checked out. Not a hospital, Tony said, trying to sound steady. Let's go home. Jarvis can run diagnostics. I don't want to stay here. Reluctantly, Pepper agreed. She'd heard he'd been targeted and had been relieved that he'd come back in one piece, but she could see now that whatever had happened had unsettled him. She had never seen Tony like this before. They left immediately, Jarvis already arranging the home assessment Fury's team, and perhaps a few quietly placed observers would watch the fallout of in the hours to come. Chapter 25. Orochimaru is back. There was a tavern. Xiaohei came down from the second floor, looking completely spent. His forelegs trembled as he walked. He padded over to the cat-climbing frame, stared up at the towering structure, and let out a long, despairing sigh. Hey, isn't this Mr. Hai? What happened to you? A slightly hoarse voice called. Xiaohei turned to see Orochimaru, back from wherever he'd been. It's too hot up there, Xiaohei said forcefully. I just wanted to cool off a bit. Orochimaru smiled, scooped him up, and set him gently on the purple mat of the climbing frame. Then he pulled a book from the shelf and began to read. Is the war over? Xiaohei asked, settling down on the cushion. Not yet, Orochimaru replied, closing the book calmly. A few minor things came up, so I pulled back from the front for now. By the way, has Jiraiya met the 3 kids? Xiaohei asked abruptly. Orochimaru raised an eyebrow. Senior Hai sure knows a lot, he said with a hint of amusement. I'm a red panda, the sacred beast who guides fate. Nothing can hide from my eyes, Xiaohei said with a puffed-up air, then winced and slumped back because the pain was too much. Orochimaru glanced at him and then asked, Where's the boss? Where did he go? Who knows what foolish places he's off gallivanting, Xiaohei grumbled. At that moment, Jiangju came in carrying a plastic bag of food. He saw Orochimaru, smiled, greeted him, and set the groceries on the bar. Xiaohei promptly shut his eyes and pretended to be asleep. Neither Jiangju nor Orochimaru commented on the act. You seem a little distracted, Jiangju observed. I've seen a lot of death lately, Orochimaru said quietly. It makes you realize how fragile human life is. Yes, Jiangju replied, looking at him. Human life is fragile, but the human heart is strong. People are the most fragile, intelligent creatures in the universe. No gods to watch over them. Those born with prime bodies and the ability to awaken divine power don't live as long as titans. Their lives are short, barely 100 years. But the legends, the will, and the beliefs they leave behind last forever. Orochimaru was silent. He already knew those truths. Sometimes people spoke truths not because they had understood them, but because they wanted to comfort others. Jiangju understood that there were things Orochimaru had to come to terms with himself. I want to change that, Orochimaru said suddenly, an edge of urgency in his voice. I don't want to die suddenly one day. There are so many things I haven't done, so many worlds I've never set foot in, so much I haven't learned. Then work for it, Jiangju said with a smile. I don't think you're someone who gives up easily. He walked to the bar, pulled a glass, dropped a few ice cubes in, and after a practiced motion poured a mysterious purple liquid into the glass until the ice clinked away. He set the drink in front of Orochimaru. Ask yourself, Jiangju announced. It doesn't have any special powers, just calms you down. And the price? Only 780,000 taels. Who made your bank account so poor? Thanks for your concern, boss, Orochimaru said, touched despite himself. He was human after all, still a young man in many ways, curious and eager to study. He had faults, naturally, but so did everyone his age. Stop being sappy. Drink it. Jiangju clapped him on the shoulder, then dug through the groceries and tossed a few plastic boxes onto Xiaohai's head. The little creature could no longer pretend to be asleep. Hey, Uncle Xiaohai, can't you even dodge plastic boxes while you're lying there? Jiangju said, laughing with mock pride. It's not my fault I'm like this. If you hadn't kept making those delicious things, I wouldn't be sick. Xiaohai snapped. Then don't eat them if you don't like them, Jiangju whistled. People always say they won't eat something, but their bodies are honest. I was complaining, and you still say that? Xiaohai couldn't take it anymore. He leapt up, pointed an accusing paw, and ranted, If you hadn't used your abilities so recklessly, I might have been able to keep eating your food. You can use your power if you have it, Jiangju said, chuckling and deliberately cruel. I'm going to sleep, Xiaohai spluttered, too angry to continue. He stalked off and flopped down to sulk. Jiangju grinned like he'd won. Orochimaru, who had just finished his drink, watched the exchange and couldn't help thinking of the white-haired idiot and the lucky girl, Tsunade. So I'm not the only one with these kinds of companions anymore, he thought with a quiet sigh. In the past, he had cared for teammates as comrades. It wasn't the close, family-like bond he saw between Jiangju and Xiaohai. Yet the constant chatter of a fool and the occasional scolding of an exasperated Tsunade felt oddly like something he was getting used to. Hey, Orochimaru, you're smiling, Jiangju said, appearing beside him with Orochimaru's smiling face on his phone. For the rope tree incident, on behalf of Tsunade, thank you. Orochimaru shifted the subject easily. She awakened would release at the last critical moment. Not only did she kill her attacker, she held on until I arrived. Jiangju chuckled. The rope tree has finally become the 1,000-armed rope tree. Not bad. He glanced at Orochimaru. I planned to bring Tsunade and Naoki with me, but they were called away by the teacher. They'll come next time. It's all right, Orochimaru said. I didn't act just to thank them. As the last of the Senju, he should restore the first generation's glory and change the world a little. They fell into a companionable silence after that, each carrying their own thoughts about duty, mortality, and the long road ahead. Chapter 26. Lu Xiaofeng. Jiangju wanted to change the Naruto world. He was tired of everything revolving around the Uchiha, of them being the villains, the saviors, the axis of every catastrophe and every cure. It made his skin crawl that an entire world's fate depended on one family. He told Orochimaru as much. Orochimaru regarded him for a moment, then nodded. What the boss plans might actually work. It could bring real peace to the ninja world. I won't interfere directly in other worlds, Jiangju said. I'll only guide. In the end, it'll be people from that world who have to do the work. Orochimaru raised an eyebrow. Can someone who fears death really change the world? Exactly because he fears death, Jiangju replied, smiling. He'll try every means to overcome it. If you hadn't met me, you might have taken a different path, one that was only yours. But once paths cross, futures change. Orochimaru fell quiet, thinking, and Jiangju left him to it. He settled at a corner table and picked up a comic. Even though this place had a superhero theme, it was still a complete world with its own famous comics and films, and Jiangju liked to read when he could. The tavern's boundary door opened, and a striking young man stepped in. He wore a green shirt and looked like an ancient knight. The most arresting thing about him was the 4 eyebrows above his eyes. "Excuse me, where am I?" the newcomer asked, his gaze flicking to the Japanese-dressed man, Orochimaru, and then to Jiangju, who was reading. "Hey, how did you know I own this place?" Jiangju asked with interest. "I didn't know, not at first," the young man said with a laugh. "I just saw you watching me when I came in, and you looked like you recognized me." He smiled. "Are you Lu Xiaofeng?" Jiangju grimaced. "Of course I know Lu Xiaofeng of the 4 brows. How could I not?" He recovered his composure. "So where is this place? I was following a woman. My sight went white for a moment, and the next thing I knew I was here. Crossing countless universes, breaking fate and creating miracles. This is a tavern," Jiangju said lightly. "In short, this isn't your original world." Lu Xiaofeng walked to the window and looked out at the busy street. For the first time, what Jiangju had said began to make sense. He studied the crowds, the signage, the modern bustle, then turned back. "Interesting place," he muttered. "Do you know Yegucheng and Shimenchue?" Jiangju asked casually. He could have used his abilities to probe memories, but he liked the little pleasures life offered, discovering things the normal way. "I've heard of them," Lu Xiaofeng replied. "Yegucheng, lord of Baiyan City, and Shimenchui Sui, the sword god, 2 swordsmen who have become famous. But I haven't met them personally. At most, they're acquaintances." "What about Hua Manlu?" Jiangju pressed. "Never heard of them," Lu Xiaofeng said, curious. "Do I need to?" "Just asking." Jiangju shrugged. "Since you showed up, I'll give you something useful. Won't leave you stunned every step you take." Before Lu Xiaofeng could ask what he meant, Jiangju was already at the bar mixing a drink. There was a little show, brilliant lights and a flourish of technique that left Lu Xiaofeng, who didn't know anything about mixing cocktails, slightly dazzled. He had to admit, the owner of this tavern had flair. Jiangju set a clear glass filled with a colorless, odorless liquid in front of him. "I call this instant," he said. "It instantly converts any negative effects in alcohol, poisons, narcotics, charms, into pure energy and returns it to your body." "You actually have something like that." Lu Xiaofeng's eyes widened. He'd been around a while and survived all kinds of dirty tricks. His inner strength, quick wits, and luck had kept him alive. Still, a drink like this was tempting. "Don't get sentimental," Jiangju said. "This glass isn't free. It's worth 1,000 taels of gold." Lu Xiaofeng smiled wryly. 1,000 taels? That's generous." "It actually should be worth more," Jiangju admitted. "But I'm in a hurry. Take it now. I trust you'll pay me back. And if you try to skip town, don't think I won't find you." The corner of Lu Xiaofeng's mouth twitched. He couldn't decide what to make of Jiangju, but he noticed the Japanese man at the counter, Orochimaru, hadn't changed his pose since he came in. He just sat there, motionless, as if trapped in an action. "What's wrong with him?" Lu Xiaofeng asked. His curiosity was part of his nature. More than once it had nearly gotten him killed, but he couldn't help it. "He's searching for his future," Jiangju said idly. "Or maybe it's an illusion. He's from another world too, different from yours, but equally strange." "Can people from other worlds come into mine?" Lu Xiaofeng asked. "Only if someone invites them," Jiangju replied. "Or if someone in your world is lucky, finds the tavern, and brings others here." He glanced at the drink. "Drink it now. It has an expiration." "Respect before haste, then." Lu Xiaofeng tipped the glass and drank. As Jiangju had said, it was completely tasteless. Had it not been chilled with ice, he might have wondered if he had drunk anything at all. Jiangju chuckled, picturing the faces of whoever had tried to charm, drug, or poison Lu Xiaofeng, only to realize he had swallowed the tainted cup and come away unharmed. Chapter 27. An old man Lu Xiaofeng studied Jiangju carefully. She had been wary at first, but watching the bloodlines on Jiangju's arms fade and seeing her internal strength surge, he realized this woman who pretended to be a fool was anything but. She was dependable and honest in her own peculiar way. "Thank you, boss. That wine was excellent," Lu Xiaofeng said, clasping his fists in gratitude. "I meant every word when I said I'd open a tavern." Jiangju replied confidently. 1,000 taels for a drink, worth every coin," he said, rising. "But I'm in the middle of an investigation. When this case is closed, maybe I can reclaim my money." "You're welcome anytime." "A tavern offers more than just drinks," Jiangju answered with a smile. That curiosity of his, and the way a tavern could be its own kind of magic, meant he'd be back. There was, however, one more thing to deal with first. Orochimaru still sat stunned, just coming out of the illusion. He rubbed his temples and managed a rueful smile. "Seems I got myself trapped in your genjutsu," he admitted. "I was completely lost in that world." That was Jiangju's illusion. If you'd broken out of it so easily, it would mean her genjutsu wasn't very good. Xiao Hai chimed in from the side, trying to comfort him. "You're the only one who likes to talk," Jiangju snapped, though she couldn't hide the amusement in her eyes. Orochimaru smiled. The whole scene stirred a faint, familiar ache in him, a déjà vu that made him think of that idiot Jiraiya. "By the way, Boss Jiang, can I tell others about this tavern?" Orochimaru asked. He had meant to invite Tsunade and Naoki before he came. "Of course. I welcome guests," Jiangju said readily. "I like meeting new people. Life's just a string of meetings and farewells." Orochimaru nodded, thanked them, and left. He needed to rest. His time in the genjutsu had been intense. Jiangju's protection had kept his memories from being overwritten, but his spirit still needed time to recover. "What did you show him?" Xiao Hei asked as soon as Orochimaru was gone. "The original Naruto anime, pre-Shippuden, turned into a genjutsu," Jiangju said, grinning. "You spoiler," Xiao Hei groaned. "Naruto fans will come after you." Jiangju laughed like a fool. "Worth it." Xiao Hei yawned and changed the subject. "What about those people across the street? What are we going to do about them?" "We could just keep letting them watch," Jiangju said, frowning at the newsstand across the street. On the surface, it looked like a sleepy stand where a middle-aged woman dozed over the papers. Underneath, though, it was a different story. Hidden compartments, surveillance gear, weapons tucked behind the racks. Jiangju knew it was a monitoring post. "They've turned a newsstand into a tiny surveillance hub, and they're pointing it at the tavern," she said. "But for people who've never seen the supernatural, watching this place won't do them any good. They'll only see what I let them see. The customers in the tavern, what they appear to be to outsiders, is exactly what the agents will see, a bar with slow business and ordinary patrons." "So Nick Fury's plan to stir trouble by exposing our customers is pointless," Lu Xiaofeng said. "No matter how much S.H.I.E.L.D. pokes around, all they'll find are perfectly normal people." Xiao Hei rubbed his face. "Doesn't it just annoy you? Every time I wake up and those guys are watching, my whole mood drains away." "Then what can we do?" Jiangju shrugged. "The world's been boring lately. Organizations like S.H.I.E.L.D. have almost nothing to do." "Then let's give them something to do," Xiao Hei said, eyes bright. "This universe is spun off the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Why not add some spice? Like a low-end X-Men setup." "No, too dull," Jiangju said. "Besides, the person you'd cast for that is standing at the door right now, the one you like, Magneto." As if on cue, the wooden door swung open. A gaunt old man in a white prison jumpsuit stepped into the tavern. He looked around with a puzzled curiosity, and then surprise bloomed into a kind of relieved joy. "Welcome to Yujan Tavern," Jiangju said pleasantly. "What is this place?" the man asked, taking in the cozy, odd furnishings. He smiled with a childlike gladness at being out of confinement. "Ah, I'm glad to be out. Just don't try to control the metal in my shop," Jiangju added quickly, already bracing herself. The old man's expression changed to one of concentration. He reached for the metal light fixture above the bar, but nothing responded. He tried again, harder, his hands trembling. "What the?" He looked at Jiangju in astonishment when his ability failed to work. "This again," Jiangju muttered, rubbing her temple. "Why do I have to explain the nature of my tavern every time?" Xiao Hei watched the immobilized Magneto and suggested a solution, calm and logical. "We could just imprint the tavern's memories into their minds as they enter. That way they'd think they already know us." "That would be invading their minds at will," Jiangju said sharply. "Anyone who's thought about this would realize what we could do next. We could read memories, change them. Sure, we could, but then we couldn't be equals. That kind of power removes the possibility of honest communication." Xiao Hei pointed at the old man, silent but resigned. "Do you really think we're equals with him right now? There's no perfect equality between beings like us," Jiangju said, ignoring the jab. She turned back to the man in the jumpsuit and offered warmly, "All right, old man. You look like you could use a glass of wine to relax. Chapter 28. An Opportunity. Magneto sat in the dim cell and tried to make sense of how he had come to this. He had once been the leader of the Brotherhood of Mutants, convinced that mutants should be free from human rule. He had even devised a device, powered by a rare mutant ability, that could turn people everywhere into mutants. He knew it was dangerous. Latent mutant genes might suddenly awaken, and those with no mutant genes at all could suffer fatal genetic damage. Still, he believed the future required sacrifices. His plan collapsed when his friend and lifelong rival, Professor Charles Xavier, the most brilliant mind on Earth, stopped him. The defeat and its aftermath hardened his hatred of humans. He had been locked away, stripped of comforts and of control, left to brood. Then one day, a wooden door appeared in the prison wall. Magneto expected a rescue by the Brotherhood. Instead, he stepped into a place unlike any he knew. The air hummed with the presence of countless metals. He felt it like a tide. For someone like him, it should have been paradise. But the realization that he was not entirely at the top here came quickly. A young man standing behind the bar seemed to be able to render his power useless with a glance. This was no ordinary tavern. "Relax, Mr. Lensher," the young man said with a casual shrug. "You came in on your own. I don't mean you any harm." He slid a glass toward Magneto. "Try this, don't worry, it's not poisoned." Eric Lensher, Magneto, regarded the cup warily for a moment, then drank. The wine cut through the fog in his mind. Thoughts clarified. His reasoning felt sharper than it had in months. "What is this place?" Magneto asked. The proprietor smiled. "A tavern. A place that connects to the wider world. Many worlds, actually. Think of it as a hub between countless universes. You are not on the Earth you came from." "Another universe?" Magneto, scientist as well as militant, nodded slowly. The idea was familiar enough to him in theory. A small, dark creature leapt onto the table and peered at him. It looked like a red panda that could speak. "You seem to have just escaped from prison," the creature observed. "A talking red panda?" Magneto blinked, taken aback but not surprised by much anymore. "This is my family, Zhang Xiaohe," the bartender said, introducing the animal with a grin. Xiaohe bristled. "I'm not a family name kind of guy. Just Xiaohe." He looked at Magneto with sharp, curious eyes. "You were locked up for a reason, I guess?" Magneto didn't elaborate. In his world, he had been a villain. Stranger things could be waiting behind the masks of these two. Zhang Ju said nothing further, though he already understood enough. From little signs and the way time felt different here, he suspected the timeline Magneto came from was in a particularly fraught era. Relations between humans and mutants had deteriorated badly. "Can I go outside?" Magneto asked, eyes on the window. He had been confined for over a year. "You can't leave this tavern unless invited by a resident human of the world you're in," Zhangju replied. "But since you've already made it inside, you can come here from anywhere in the future. Sometimes, being here can be a saving grace." As Magneto's gaze swept the room, he noticed a set of rules on the wall, 9 of them, neatly posted. People began to drift in, each one foreign and oddly familiar at once. One figure caught his eye more than the rest, an elderly man in medieval robes who bore a striking resemblance to him. Another wore an opulent dark green robe, half-moon spectacles, waist-length silver hair, and a hooked nose. Xiaohe noticed Magneto studying them. "Those two are wizards. The one who looks like you? He's more like a demigod. The silver-haired fellow is the headmaster of a magic academy. Both are powerful." "How many things I've never seen," Magneto murmured, a hint of wonder breaking through his usual reserve. Zhangju chuckled. "It is a magical tavern, after all. Everything here costs something, of course. For now, don't worry. I'll cover your expenses. When you're free to return to your world, you can pay me back." Magneto accepted the assurance with quiet gratitude. Xiaohe hopped down and produced a small metal sphere the size of a fist. He set it in Magneto's palm. "You'll want this," Xiaohe said. "Might help you feel yourself again." Magneto closed his fingers around it. The old hungry relief flowed through him. Any person who had ever had power knows how naked they feel when it's taken away. The cell of glass and plastic had been like an amputation. Now, for the first time in a long while, he let himself manipulate the metal. He split the sphere into smaller pieces and set them orbiting his hand, each shard responding to his will as if recalling a long-forgotten song. Why are you helping me? He asked, watching the metal rotate. We just met. No one helps a man like me for nothing. Xiaohei's whiskers twitched. Because I like you. That's reason enough. He tilted his head. If you care about saving your people, you do well to come here more. Seek counsel from others, wizards, gods, whoever passes through, and ask Jiangju for help. He knows things. You won't have to do it alone. Magneto turned the metal pieces deftly between his fingers, feeling the old certainty returning. For the first time since his imprisonment, an opportunity gleamed before him, small, strange, and entirely unexpected. Chapter 29, Professor X. Magneto lingered in the tavern until almost nightfall before he decided to leave. The place had been stranger than he expected, a crowd of unusual people, some not even human, and a few obvious fanboys, including a small, eager one named Xiaohei. He had learned a little from them. Before he left, he made a point of thanking Xiaohei and a woman called Jiangju. Good luck, Jiangju said quietly. I don't think you'll be coming back here anytime soon. That seemed right to Magneto. In this timeline, Stryker was already preparing to move on Xavier's school. There wouldn't be many opportunities to wander into a place like that again. He opened the door, stepped out, and for a moment noticed a wooden door-shaped tattoo bloom on his forearm and then fade. Xiaohei had explained what it meant, that if he ever needed the tavern again, the mark would return and the door would appear, letting him come back at will. Magneto smiled to himself. He had seen impossible things tonight, but the tiny tattoo made the experience concrete. To make it even more real, a piece of metal suddenly appeared in his palm. It was ordinary and strange at once. Not an illusion, not a trick. He could still feel the imprint of the tavern, and that metal confirmed he had really been there. He was not the sort to trust memories alone. This world had too many mutants who could subtly alter recollections. He pressed his fingers to the base of his skull, finding the old scar left by Stryker's mind control serum. It was a reminder of what Stryker could do, and of why Magneto now had every reason to believe his old enemy was plotting something new. Back at the facility, a commotion erupted. A heavy-set, white-faced guard barged into the surveillance room, red with anger. "Where were you, Lancel?" he barked, riffling through the logs. He had just checked the cameras and discovered that Magneto had disappeared for nearly a day. It wasn't that the security team hadn't noticed. In truth, the surveillance hadn't been recording. The guard at the monitors, an indifferent man named Lancel, had decided to leave the feeds off for the day. He'd convinced himself Magneto couldn't use his powers inside the glass cell and that the perimeter was secure. Nobody would dare try to free him. It had been laziness, not negligence. Magneto's voice came from the doorway, calm and almost polite. "Mr. Rorio, it seems you were feeling lazy today." Rorio's fury snapped toward the intruder, but Magneto was already across the room. He held up a small ball of metal and smiled. The man who had spent every day tormenting Magneto froze when the metal worked against him. The guards had alarms built into their uniforms. When the first man fell, the panic system started to scream. It was useless. For those who had underestimated Magneto, the glass cell might as well have been paper. With a gesture, the prison window shattered and the metal ball hummed. In moments, the guards who had enjoyed torturing him lay incapacitated, or worse. The security alarms blared, but their noise meant nothing against Magneto's control. He stepped through the broken cell like a king taking his leave. In a hidden laboratory, Stryker looked up from schematics for the assault on Xavier's school as his aide burst into the room. "Magneto's escaped," the man said, voice tight. "He got metal from somewhere and broke out. Our surveillance wasn't recording." Stryker pinched the bridge of his nose. "How did this happen?" "Because the monitors were turned off today," the aide said bluntly. "Someone didn't do their job." Stryker's anger turned to calculation. "Notify Professor X immediately. When they arrive, have them arrested on sight." "But sir," another officer said, unsettled, "we're not ready to take down Xavier's defenses yet. If word gets out, if Professor X shows up prepared." Stryker's jaw hardened. His plan to strike the school couldn't be compromised by a loose end at the facility. "Yuriko will handle the prison. You take the lab. I'm going to the Pentagon." Elsewhere, in the calm of Xavier's study, Charles Xavier sat in his wheelchair, hands folded, his brow creased not with pain but with thought. A red-haired woman, Jean Grey, watched him with concern. "Can you find him, Charles?" she asked quietly. "I can only sense him vaguely," he replied. "But I can feel a direction. Jean, take Aurora with you and bring him back." Jean nodded and moved to gather Aurora, whose hair fell white and long down her shoulders. Charles's voice was steady as he spoke to another of the team. "Scott, it looks like we'll have to meet old friends." Scott, Cyclops, simply nodded. He didn't speak much. He wore his special glasses to help control his optic blasts, and restraint was a part of him. He trusted Charles. He had always trusted the doctor's judgment. Charles watched them prepare and then turned back to the room, a small, private worry shadowing his features. "There are things beyond what I can see right now," he said, "but we will go where we must, when we can. Wait for my signal." Scott inhaled and accepted that. He had learned to follow the professor's lead, to trust the mind that saw so much further than any of them. They would go when Charles said so. Just then, the telephone on Charles's desk began to ring, a clear, insistent tone that cut through the quiet. The call might change everything. Chapter 30, History of Change. Professor Xavier had received 2 calls that afternoon. The first was the kind he could never ignore. The second came from a prison cell. Scott found Charles deep in thought in the study and asked, "Professor, what happened?" "Eric escaped," Xavier said without looking up, "and he called me. He says Stryker is planning to use me and Cerebro to eliminate mutants worldwide." Scott's jaw tightened. "Stryker? He plans to weaponize Cerebro? But Eric escaped prison to tell you this?" "He believes it's true," Xavier replied. "Eric asked me to do something about it." Scott frowned. "And you believe him?" Xavier turned those pale eyes on Scott. "Magneto is not always trustworthy." "In most things, no," Scott agreed. "But you think he's telling the truth now?" "Yes." Charles's voice was steady. "If Stryker can reach Cerebro, he could magnify whatever we do into a catastrophe. I need to confirm Eric's claim and be ready." Scott thought of the school's defenses. "If you go, the school's going to be very vulnerable. Only Logan is here." "I will alert Hank," Xavier said. "Magneto is on his way to assist us." Scott shook his head. "I still don't trust Magneto." Before Xavier could answer, a heavy step sounded in the doorway. Logan filled the frame, broad-shouldered, hair wild enough to make him look lupine from a distance. The flash of metal at his knuckles and the 3 claws that gleamed when he flexed were unmistakable. "You want me?" he asked in a voice like gravel. "The school may be attacked," Xavier said. "Get the students into the safe room. Prepare them to defend themselves." And he reached beneath a portrait and pressed a hidden switch. "If things go south, turn on the self-destruct sequence for this office." Logan blinked. "Self-destruct? There's a self-destruct?" "Cerebro is dangerous," Xavier said quietly. "I've always known it. I've kept precautions in place in case someone tries to use it against us or against the world." Logan produced a cigar and tucked it between his teeth. "Sounds like tonight's going to be rough." "Possibly life and death," Xavier admitted. Logan's eyes narrowed. "You sure about bringing Magneto here? One man can control metal. Another man is covered in the stuff. How's that supposed to go?" Charles's expression softened. "Eric and I have different methods. We share a hope that mutants can live well, but we disagree on how to get there. That disagreement hardened into enmity long before any of you were here. Humans exploit difference. Emotions get inflamed, and allies become enemies. I don't expect us to be best friends. I only ask that we do what protects the students." Logan looked at the professor for a long moment, then nodded once. He didn't know Magneto's true motives either, but he trusted Charles's judgment, no matter how he felt about Eric. For now, he would follow orders. A little later, a pair arrived at the school gates. Mystique's voice was bored as she surveyed the grounds. "This place hasn't changed much. Why are we coming here?" "Waiting on an old friend," Magneto said, and with a subtle motion of his hands, the enormous doors swung open. He stepped inside as if returning to a place that had once been home. There was a weight to his presence. Eric Landsher had once walked a path similar to Charles's. They had been 2 men shaped by the same world, split by different answers to the same question. One had chosen to teach and to try to integrate. He had been the dove. The other had become the hawk, using power to push for freedom. Their disagreement had been twisted by fear and violence until it became bitter and bloody. Standing in the old hall, Magneto felt that history like a pulse. Charles still trusts you, Mystique observed, looking at the empty rooms. Because he understands Cerebro's power, Eric replied. There was no pride in it, only a cold certainty. If Stryker wants to use Charles and Cerebro against mutants, he has to be stopped. Mystique arched an eyebrow. Are you not tempted to use that power yourself? To wipe out humanity for good measure? Magneto shook his head. No, I attack those who threaten us. Military forces, governments that treat mutants as an enemy. I do not target innocent civilians. My pride in the memory of what persecution has done to us will not allow that. Logan, having arrived to join them, let out a low chuckle. Never thought I'd see the day we'd stand on the same side as Magneto against a weapon like Stryker's. Eric's gaze flicked to the old Wolverine. We are not friends, he said simply. We are, at least for now, allies against a greater threat. Inside the school, Xavier set his plan into motion. He would verify Eric's warning, summon Hank, and do everything he could to keep Cerebro from becoming a tool of annihilation. Outside, the pieces were moving into place. Old rivals, tentative allies, and the students they had sworn to protect. The history of their choices had brought them to this crossroads. Tonight, that history might change its course. Chapter 31. Employment. The tavern in the Marvel Universe was its usual bustle. From time to time, people from other worlds drifted in and tapped the order tablets set into the tables. The drinks they wanted would appear as if by magic. Most visitors preferred to sit alone. Only a few regulars knew each other well enough to chat. "Ha, your suggestion was brilliant, Mr. Gandalf," Jiangju said, watching the newcomers use the table tablets and thereby avoiding a lot of extra work. She smiled at the gray-robed man beside her, who was idly smoking. Gandalf took a long drag and let the smoke curl away. "Only because you can handle the heavy lifting, boss." He exhaled, and the smoke drifted off like a faint whisper. "Looks like Headmaster Dumbledore won't be stopping in today." "There's a house full of mischievous children that need him," Jiangju replied with a grin. "If you want, you could ask him personally for an invitation." She waved a hand. "I'd better deal with my own business first. Those dwarves can be brutal. Just thinking about it gives me a headache." Gandalf shook his head, then brightened as if remembering something. "Oh, here I can recruit people as mercenaries for the other world, right? I could take some along with me." "Ah, you found the hiring function," Jiangju said, smiling. "But of course I'll charge a fee." "That dragon is greedy enough to make us think twice," Gandalf murmured, considering. "If I heard you right, boss, you mean a dragon?" A voice answered from the nearby table. A young woman in a blue mage's robe had been jogging in place as if she'd just run in. The hood hid most of her face. When she turned, the flush on her cheeks was unmistakable. "I didn't mean to eavesdrop," she said quickly, embarrassed. I'm very interested in dragons." "Dragons aren't easy to deal with," Gandalf said through the tip of his cigarette. "You're a dragonborn, aren't you?" Jiangju looked surprised and then intrigued, while the mage, who'd been listening, blushed harder. "You should have said hello when you came in," Jiangju teased. "I did say hello. Maybe the boss was too busy to notice," the girl replied, a hint of grievance in her voice. Jiangju mentally noted the young woman's confidence. A dragonborn was a specialist in hunting great dragons. If anyone could take on a dragon, it would be someone like her. "Have you ever been to Winterhold?" Jiangju asked, curious. "I studied at Winterhold," the girl said. "I was in the archaeology program when I found the wooden doorway that led me here." Gandalf's interest was visibly piqued. "So she came from a world not unlike ours," he said. "Lucky coincidence. An old wizard planning on confronting a dragon, and a dragonborn walks through the door." Jiangju explained for Gandalf's benefit. Dragonborn are warriors bred to hunt giant dragons and consume their souls, humanoid dragons, essentially. "Kill dragons, devour souls," Gandalf said, nodding solemnly. "That could solve the problem without endangering other people." "Right, so we can avoid collateral casualties," Jiangju agreed. She turned to the mage. "We can't keep calling you Dragonborn girl, though. What's your name?" The Dragonborn straightened. "Lust Tiago Paul. I'm currently studying at the Winterhold Mage Academy. And I'm the last Dragonborn," she added, as if the title came with both pride and burden. Last Dragonborn, what a dramatic title, Jiangju said with a dry chuckle. No offense, it's a good name. None taken, Lust answered. My elders gave it to me. Good. Gandalf, I won't need to be involved beyond the initial arrangements, but remember, 30% commission. Jiangju tilted her head at the wizard. Gandalf rubbed his chin. We should ask Miss Tiago what she wants out of this. The dragons in her world might be nothing like those here. Don't worry, Jiangju replied. The dragons in her world once ruled the entire planet. They should be far more powerful than ours. In that case, when we're ready, I'll come back to the tavern to announce it, Gandalf said. You'll let us know how to join, right? Of course, otherwise why would I charge? Jiangju said. I'll notify you when the dragon is ready to be engaged. The tattoo on your arm will glow. When that light appears, you can come through. That works for me, Lust said with a smile. Whether from habit or training, she sounded like someone who accepted contracts readily. All right, when you're ready, I'll draw up a contract of employment, Jiangju added. We'll go over the specifics then. Oh, and once your contract is signed, you can choose to stream the battle live on the tavern screens. It will broadcast only the fight itself, nothing else. People here like to watch these things. Gandalf chuckled. We can discuss details later. I'll be in touch. I look forward to our cooperation, Miss Tiago Paul. Just call me Lust, she said, smiling. Lust it is, Gandalf replied, raising his cup. To our agreement. To our agreement, Lust echoed. And to everyone's amusement, she drank with surprising boldness. Jiangju laughed softly at the scene. She'd just secured a clean 30% slice of whatever profit came from sending mercenaries through the tavern's portal, a tidy fee for loosening a restriction on the doorway. All she had to do now was sit back and wait for the tattoo on the Dragonborn's arm to glow. Chapter 32. Wei Xiaobao and Chief Jiao. Everyone in the tavern had overheard the exchange between Jiangju and Gandalf. Jiangju had never tried to hide it. So as soon as Gandalf announced he needed time to prepare and left, the room buzzed with disappointment. Many of the visitors had wanted to sign up for Gandalf's dragon hunting expedition, but for now they had to shelve the idea. We all come from different worlds, Jiangju said, scanning the faces around him. And everyone has to choose their next destination according to what they're actually capable of. He looked directly at Wei Xiaobao. For example, Brother Wei, you'd better take up martial arts properly. Wei Xiaobao, in his tiger head hat and that familiar sly grin, waved a hand. Boss, martial arts are simple. Work hard and you'll get it. With my talent for mixing drinking and swordplay, I'll be the best in the world in no time. You can dream, Jiangju said flatly. In your world, there aren't any true top masters. Even if you'd somehow learned the Sunflower Manual, you'd only be average, nothing special. Wei Xiaobao's smile didn't falter. The thought of real power didn't interest him so much as the chance to go to another world, pick up useful gadgets, return to Kangxi's court, and climb higher. If not for a certain eunuch's insistence, he wouldn't have bothered with martial arts at all. A patch-cloaked man with a noble bearing and steady eyes stepped forward. He didn't look the part of a man to be pitied by his clothes. Little brother, you have the wrong head for sitting meditation, he said with an amused glance at Wei. You'd go crazy trying to follow a strict regime. You need something rougher. Wei Xiaobao chuckled. Exactly. Messy practice suits me. I'm good at messy. Jiangju smiled wryly at the pair. That temperament might serve you well, actually. The patched man's smile faded into a sigh. It's been a troubling time for the beggar clan, he admitted. Wei Xiaobao, always quick to ingratiate himself, brightened. Gang leader Qiao, is there anything I can do? Call me Xiaobao, my friends all do. Qiao Feng, brotherly, courteous, and clearly a leader, returned the grin. Then call me Brother Qiao. Jiangju watched the exchange and then asked, suddenly direct, is your deputy, Vice Gang Leader Ma, dead? Qiao Feng's expression tightened in surprise. How did you? Boss, how do you know about Ma's death? Jiangju's voice was steady. You'll probably meet Murong Fu when you go back. Ma died because of a trick that made someone famous. There are very few people who could have done that. Murong Fu is one of them. Qiao's face went hard. Murong Fu? He said, anger rising. Murong Fu, the Murong of the old Yan family, he'd never be content just living among the Song people. He wants to restore his own state. Exactly. Jiangju leaned forward. He's a descendant of the Yan Morongs. His ambitions go beyond personal glory. He's scheming about restoring a state. But something's off. Far too many people died because of that fame-making trick. It looks like someone doesn't want Morong Fu to succeed. It looks like there's an enemy acting directly against the Morongs. Chao Feng, sharp and quick to read a situation, picked up the implication. So there's someone else involved, someone who hates the Morong family. There is, Zhang Ju said without hesitation, and this other person is tangled up with your own past more than you might expect. Then, without holding back, he laid out what he knew. The tangled history involving Morong Bo and the Avenger Xiao Yuanshan, the old grudges, and how those past events had left deep wounds. For Chao Feng, who had been raised with honor and an austere code, the revelations landed like a blow. Wei Xiaobao, leaning on his wine gourd, watched Chao's shift in expression and couldn't help but comment. "Boss, if this is some sort of practical joke, it's a cruel one." "I don't joke about this," Jiangju said calmly. He continued, filling in the missing pieces in a way that made Chao Feng step back and rub his forehead. "Your lineage and your origins matter. Even if you've done great service for the song, if your Khitan roots are exposed, the whole martial world will turn on you. People will forget the good you've done. They'll only see your identity and use it against you. There are forces who will seize on that to destroy you." Chao's jaw tightened. For a proud man like him, the thought of being reduced to a label, of his life's deeds evaporating in the face of tribal prejudice, was almost unbearable. Wei Xiaobao smirked and tossed in a flippant remark. "And anyway, why worry about the song? That dynasty gets ruined twice. What's the point of fretting now?" Zhang Ju gave him a swift, exasperated rap on the head. "Shut up, Xiaobao." Then Zhang Ju addressed Chao again, gentler now. "I didn't tell you any of this to scare you. I told you because I want to change your fate. You've always been upright and honorable, but there are those who'd use your background to ruin you. I don't want that to happen." Chao Feng drew a steady breath and bowed his head slightly, the old impatience replaced by thought. "Thank you," he said quietly. "Rest for now," Jiangju went on. "If you want to know the whole story, come find me. I don't just know these things. I have a way to help. For your sake, and for the song, there's a solution." Chao Feng nodded once, a man trying to reconcile duty, identity, and the painful history that threatened to upend him. Around them, the tavern hummed with other concerns, worlds to cross, battles to be fought. But in that corner, a fragile alliance of truth and intent was forming. Chapter 33, The Flash Strikes. Chao Feng blinked back into his own world in a daze. Wei Xiaobao, who had been watching him, jumped when he saw Chao Feng smiling at him. The moment he recovered, Wei Xiaobao shoved his money down the table and bolted for the door, which left Zhang Ju feeling a little wounded. "Am I that awful?" Zhang Ju moped. Xiao He patted over and offered an explanation. "He wasn't scared of what you said because of you. You already told gang leader Chao about his life. Wei Xiaobao just worries you might blurt something out about him." Zhang Ju brightened a little. "Well, spoilers are fun, though." He grinned, and Xiao Hai, who'd ruined quite a few fates already, had nothing left to argue. It knew all too well the addictive rush of dropping spoilers. Once you start, it was hard to stop. "By the way," Xiao He said, shifting the subject, "there's been some news about the Flash online." "Another fake?" Zhang Ju shrugged. 3 or 4 lookalikes have popped up in the last few days. People get fooled all the time. "But the real Flash showed up in this world because of us. We can't just do nothing," Xiao He pointed out. Zhang Ju tapped his chin and smirked. "Fine, we'll put out a statement. The Flash made enough money and left the United States." "Are you sure?" Xiao He sounded reluctant. "Or," Zhang Ju mused, "you can find someone and I'll give them the reverse lightning ability." Xiao He hesitated. "I've never left the tavern much. I only know a few people. Maybe someone called Hammer." "Never mind. I'll write the statement," Jiang Ju cut in. "Much easier." Trident Building. "What the?" An agent swore under his breath as he read the new post that had suddenly appeared on the Flash's official page. The statement wasn't verbose. It basically read, in big red letters, "I joined an organization that protects world peace. Don't bother me with trivial matters. The Flash is on strike." "Is the Flash really on strike?" Agent Hill asked. eyebrows raised. She'd come to report something else but had stumbled onto the post. Maybe he noticed we were poking around, Nick Fury muttered. How did the bar check go? Ordinary, Agent Hill reported. People coming and going were just office workers from nearby buildings. The place doesn't seem special. She added a detail she thought might matter. And the boss, the guy who runs the place, refused to meet with Tony Stark. Probably just personal dislike. A lot of people don't like Stark. So we'll only learn more if we go in ourselves, Fury said after a pause. Didn't Natasha take some time off? Put her on this and have her work out of New York. Is sending her really necessary for an ordinary bar? Hill asked, baffled. Fury didn't bother to explain. People resting aren't really resting. Also, General Ross has started looking into Captain America's serum. Ross got involved? Hill supplied the latest intel. He's assigned Dr. Bruce Banner to the project. Military funded. Banner is preparing to use gamma radiation to try to crack the serum. Still won't let S.H.I.E.L.D. near the experiment? Fury frowned. He's paranoid. Yes, we can't get anyone close to the lab. Keep watching him, and tell Coulson to hurry. If we locate the right person, whatever Ross is doing becomes irrelevant. Fury's voice was flat, decisive. I'll notify him immediately. Hill turned and left. Fury, meanwhile, had already moved the files related to the Flash onto a secure SIR server and raised their classification to the highest level. The tavern. Xiaohei shoved a laptop across the bar. See? Everyone's complaining. The brand I built is ruined because you made that statement. We're not a marketing firm, Jiangju said casually. If the brand collapses, it collapses. When Barry's back, can we still make him deliver food? He shrugged and went back to his comic. Don't say that like it's nothing. Xiaohai fumed. It had poured effort into the site, and now trolls and imitators were flooding it. If you really want it fixed, find someone worth training, and I'll give them the reverse lightning ability, Jiangju added by way of reassurance. Xiaohei tossed its paws up in exasperation. I hardly ever leave this place. I don't know who would be suitable. Well, except maybe Hammer, but... Fine. Don't leave in a huff, Jiangju said, waving it off. I'm sure we'll work something out. He turned back to his comic as the afternoon settled in. Customers began to filter in. After an hour, the tavern was bustling. Some familiar faces, some new, some human, some decidedly not. Trouble was inevitable in such a crowd, but Jiangju had a neat method. Before anyone could make things worse, he'd pin them down and quietly extract whatever dangerous ability they carried away. Every time I come here, it's just as lively, Guyi said with a smile as he walked in, the little boy he'd been looking after at his side. The boy wore jeans and a white cardigan, his face bright. Boss, the boy called happily. It was Xiao Linger. Master sent me to school soon. Hey, Linger! Jiangju grinned and knelt to her level. How are you getting on? Linger beamed. Master has been very kind. I'm ready to go to school now. Jiangju ruffled her hair. Work hard, Linger. One day, you'll be the big sister at school. Guyi rolled his eyes. Don't teach her bad ideas, boss. He looked at Jiangju with mock reproach. But the smile that tugged at his lips betrayed how relieved he was to see the child thriving. Chapter 34. The Three Little Girls. Sometimes, Jiangju wondered, if Li Xiaoyao had never met Zhao Linger, would he have amounted to nothing? After turning it over in his mind, he decided that probably wasn't true. Without Zhao Linger, Li Xiaoyao might even have led a happier, quieter life. At the same time, without Li Xiaoyao, Zhao Linger might have been caught by the moon-worshipping cult when she was young. Even if that had happened later, her grandmother wasn't powerful enough to save her easily. In that sense, Zhao Linger staying in the Marvel world had been beneficial for both of them. Of course, if someday in the future Zhao Linger decided to return and search for brother Xiao Yao, if she remembered that she was Nuwa and felt compelled to take up that responsibility, Jiangju wouldn't stop her. That would be a duty for the next generation. Besides, in 10 years' time she would be strong enough to make her own choices. Sit here. Looks like your friend isn't here yet. Jiangju smiled and settled Zhao Linger at a table near the gateway to the boundary. He poured her juice and set out some snacks. When she raised her chubby little hand to take a cup, a faint mark showed on her palm, an outline of the boundary gate. It was hidden from everyone else. Only Jiangju could see it. Really? Zhao Linger said, pleased. I thought Brother Xiaoyao would come, so I asked the master to bring me. Jiangju ruffled the girl's silky hair. He joked inwardly that she must use Head and Shoulders, and didn't answer. After leaving Zhao Linger to play, he returned to the bar to begin the day's business. He didn't worry about her safety. No one dared cause trouble here, and in any case, in this place, people simply could not harm each other. Today was busier than usual. A lot of new faces had come in, and some of them didn't know or care about the rules. Jiangju had his hands full calming people down and apologizing to guests afterward. If a disturbance erupted here, it irritated everyone. Haha, boss, you should post an instruction manual on your boundary gate, someone with red hair and a straw hat shouted jokingly. That would take all the fun out of it, you red-haired brat, Jiangju shot back. A tall, lean man nearby, with horns curling from his brow, laughed softly. Pity we can't settle disputes here like that, he said. Being criticized is half the entertainment. Do you think everyone's a fighting maniac like you? Jiangju snapped. The horned man, Chonglu, fell silent. He was the sort to act first and ask questions later, yet recently he'd been stung too often. Against some opponents, even someone adept at spatial techniques could be easily outplayed. With a painted turtle on his face marking him as a dignified figure in the demon world, he had slunk off to a corner to wait for the paint to wear off. You know I'm not insulting you, Jiangju said to him. How dare you, Chonglu protested vehemently. He enjoyed competition, but he wasn't one to revel in humiliation. Since he hadn't found a worthy opponent lately, he was restless. I've fought across all 6 realms. Aside from the unborn hermits and other heavenly emperors, I've faced almost everyone. I always feel that those old heavenly emperors are sly as foxes. Every time I challenge them, they stall, won't risk starting a war between gods and demons, and all I get is nonsense. You could try the divine general Fei Peng, Jiangju suggested. Fei Peng? Chonglu looked thoughtful. I've heard the name. Next time I go back, I might seek him out. If he's someone you remember, he shouldn't be weak. You're wrong about that, Jiangju said with a smile. I know a lot of people. Not all of them are powerful. I remember many of them for who they are, not their strength. At that moment, the wooden door opened. A small yellow-haired girl in a princess dress stepped in, clutching the hand of a black-haired girl dressed more plainly. Yellow-haired Yuzi scanned the room, suddenly shy. Her older sister, dark-haired and more composed, shadowed her protectively. Yuzi, over here! Zhao Linger's bright voice cut the brief silence. Yuzi! The little yellow-haired girl's face lit up. She tugged her sister toward Zhao Linger's table. Linger, this is my sister, Kurosaki Kari. Sister, this is Zhao Linger, the one I told you about. See, I told you I wasn't lying. The black-haired girl bowed politely. I'm Kurosaki Kari, Yuzi's sister. Thank you for looking after my sister last time. Yuzi and I are friends, Zhao Linger said, smiling. Kari can be my sister too. Jiangju saw the exchange and waved to Chonglu before coming over to greet the newcomers. Yuzi, back again, and bringing your sister, he said, smiling. Hello there. Manager, Yuzi chirped with a grin. I brought her because Brother Xiaoyao didn't believe me. Jiangju's eyes softened. He noticed their modest clothes and guessed they might be short on money, so he handed them special juice and some magical world snacks. Things good for growing children. You were very brave the last time you wandered into my shop, Kari said politely, producing some coins. We brought money this time. It's good to be careful, Jiangju said, but this is my shop. You listen to me. Besides, you won't get these things anywhere else. He reached out and playfully mussed Kari's hair. The little girl flushed and then smiled shyly. You really like Xiaoli, Zhao Linger teased, watching the scene. He hasn't patted my head yet. Yuzi pouted, puffing her cheeks out adorably. Jiangju only laughed and handed her another cup of juice. Chapter 35, Xiao Feng's Return. The 3 little girls' whispered chatter was like a pleasant decoration for the whole tavern. There were few real troublemakers among tonight's customers, and everyone welcomed the trio's presence with indulgent smiles. I haven't seen Odin in ages. What's he been up to? A blond man in a gray suit asked, a touch of nostalgia in his voice. Who knows? Another handsome man with long hair replied, sipping a blue drink. Not everyone wants to be idle like you, brother. The Odin of this world is completely different from the one we met in ours, the blonde added. You changed the subject pretty abruptly, the black-haired man said, shaking his head. Relax. I think it's time to give the younger lot a chance. Haven't you already arranged for your children to go to that training camp? The blonde teased. You'd better remember that when the time comes, the black-haired man murmured. Everyone in the god realm knew how unfaithful the ruler of Olympus could be. Zeus had a reputation. I always feel like you're thinking something naughty, Zeus said calmly to his younger brother. Please don't pick up the tavern owner's tone, the brother shot back, rolling his eyes. Hey look, the famous king of the sea Poseidon, looking adorable, Zeus crowed, pulling a camera from nowhere and taking a snapshot of his brother. Poseidon scowled and reached to snatch it away. Hey, gentlemen, aren't you being a bit self-absorbed? Jiangju walked over and regarded the pair with an amused frown. Boss, you don't know. To keep our dignity as gods in that other world, we had to do so many ridiculous things. It's wonderful to be ourselves for a while in this tavern. Have you ever heard this line? Jiangju asked Zeus. What is it? Zeus replied, intrigued. Zeus's mouth is a liar. Some European theologians said that about you, Jiangju said lightly. That's slander, Zeus protested. We did reign glorious for a time, but after our twilight, others started throwing mud at the sleeping gods. It's despicable. Did they pressure you into being lascivious? Jiangju tilted his head at him. What? Lascivious? It's called being coquettish. Tell me, am I not coquettish? Zeus demanded. In the infinite universe, there are many devoted lovers, yet we don't want to crush all men with one stick, Jiangju said dryly. Take me as an example. Men are devoted. They always favor young women. Of course men are devoted. They always like the young. Zeus shrugged and then smiled at Jiangju. Double the price of drinks. Jiangju muttered an exasperated word, turned his back on the presumptuous king, and stalked away. These gods were hopelessly arrogant. Just then the tavern's boundary door opened again, and all eyes turned. A man had stepped inside and quickly changed his clothes. When he came out, he saw the gazes trained on him and offered a formal salute, clasped fists, and then a bow. Then he made his way to the bar and waited for Jiangju. Is this gang leader Qiao? Jiangju asked, handing him a glass of iced water. I am no longer the leader of the beggar clan, the man said, taking the glass and downing it in one long gulp. He let out a relieved breath and smiled. Do you really think that being Khitan prevents you from being beggar chief? Jiangju asked, frowning. Boss, whether you're Qiao Feng or Xiao Feng, the feeling in your heart doesn't change so easily. But to others, whether you're Song or Khitan matters a great deal. At this moment, the man introduced himself as Xiao Feng. He sounded weary. You don't need to worry about those fellows, Jiangju added, looking at him with concern. I'm tired, Xiao Feng admitted. I was raised and taught by Song people. My master and adoptive parents were Song. For years, I killed Khitans for the Song cause, but when I discovered that I am Khitan, I suddenly felt like I didn't belong anywhere. His voice had a loneliness to it that needed no explanation. Jiangju understood. When a man's identity flips, old loyalties and new blood both press on him. As Qiao Feng, he had slain many Khitans. As Xiao Feng, he could no longer so easily turn on his kinsmen. Tradition and the habits of the world were heavier than any simple preference. I've found my father, Xiao Feng continued. I stopped him from continuing to kill. We're heading to Shaolin to expose Morongbo's true face. After we avenge my mother by dealing with Morongbo, I'll leave the Song with my father and go overseas. Find a place to stay away from all this feuding. I'm sorry, Jiangju. I may not be able to help you with your plans to raise the Song dynasty. You were too kind-hearted before, Jiangju sighed. I understand. Still, since you're planning to go abroad, I have a favor to ask. As long as it's the boss's order, Xiao Feng will go through fire and water, Xiao Feng promised, patting his chest. I want you to find the Emperor of the Song and bring him here to the tavern before you leave, Jiangju said. Emperor Zhao Shu. The Emperor? Xiao Feng looked surprised, but it made sense. If one wanted to change a country, starting with its ruler was logical. Why him? I think the boy will be a good emperor if he's guided right, Jiangju said simply. Getting into the palace isn't the issue. Finding the emperor without causing a scene is. If you can bring him here, leave the rest to me. Controlling time is a small thing for me. Xiao Feng considered the request, then nodded. I'll speak to my father as soon as I go back. With his help, I should have a better chance. He stood, saluted Jiangju once more, and without another word, turned and left the tavern. Chapter 36. Delegated Tasks. Why are you suddenly interested in that emperor? Xiao He asked as he padded up to Jiangju. Besides, his name is so unfamiliar. Of course it's unfamiliar. Jiangju shrugged. If I hadn't just heard that Xiao Feng was planning to leave the Central Plains and would be away from Baidu for a while, I wouldn't have noticed him. There really is a saying on Baidu that fits. This emperor has practically no presence in the records. Do you think he could change the fate of the Northern Song? Xiao He stretched himself out on the bar and asked. I thought the song was supposed to end in a few years in Tianlong Babu. If I'd known about him earlier, I wouldn't have put all my bets on Xiao Feng. Jiangju smiled. It's just a coincidence. Xiao Feng chose to withdraw because of public opinion and his own reasons, went abroad, and I could only dig through Baidu while he was gone. That's how I found this hidden boss. Is Zhao Shu really that strong? Xiao He asked, leaning over the phone as Jiangju swiped through search results. He's impressive. Jiangju tapped the screen and showed Xiao He the Baidu entries. He's one of the few, maybe the only, Northern Song emperors who had the grandeur of the Han and Tang. After he took the throne, he accomplished a lot. He even pushed back Shixia and reclaimed territories his profligate grandmother had lost, and yet there are hardly any records about him. Why so few? Xiao He frowned. And he died because of indulgence? Of course, such a capable emperor didn't last long. Jiangju's voice turned sharp. Like his short-lived father, he died under mysterious circumstances right after trying to reform the laws. The official histories don't say much. The Song was a scholar-official state. They weren't interested in exposing certain things. She smirked. Since we stumbled onto him, I might as well tweak his fate a little. If he likes women that much, I can give him a few tricks so he lives longer. I'm curious to see how the Song would turn out. Xiao He only smiled at that. Time passed. Most of the evening's customers had eaten and left. No new faces came in. Xiao Linger and a couple of the Kurosaki girls lingered, chatting happily. It seemed they'd be seeing this view often. After everyone left, Jiangju cleaned the tavern by herself, then took Xiao He out for a proper meal. The food she made earlier had been for show. It wasn't exactly edible. The next few days in the tavern were uneventful. Travelers came and went. Many were still testing the place, waiting for Gandalf's matter to be settled before real trade began. Gandalf, hurry up! All this is money, Jiangju said aloud, imagining stacks of banknotes fluttering in the air, and couldn't help grinning. A voice cut through her daydream. Boss, are you happy? When Jiangju turned, the grin widened. Gandalf, you finally made it. Gandalf shuffled in, awkward and a little uncomfortable. Can someone fill me in? He asked those nearby. You can tell from his eyes, he's got money on the brain, a spiky-haired boy said around a mouthful of cake. Gandalf smiled faintly. I see. I've become the guy who eats the first crab, he joked. The hedgehog-headed boy stared mournfully at the cake that had fallen to the floor. Oh, my cake, he said. Boss, why are you so cruel? I already sent you the post from Bilibili. Jiangju exaggerated her shock, playing it up for the hedgehog boy. We don't even know each other that well, and you throw cake on the floor? Isn't the cake here delicious? The boy immediately backed down. I'm sorry. I was just pointing out what you were thinking. Please forgive me. What are you talking about? I don't get it. Jiangju blinked and pretended to be confused. Do we know each other? Okay, boss, don't tease him, Gandalf said with an indulgent smile. I'm ready. After today, I'll get used to this world, and then I'll head to where the evil dragon is. Fine, for Gandalf's sake, I forgive you, mother, Jiangju said breezily, and the cake on the floor vanished as if by magic. It's not mother, it's Tuma. Mine is Japanese, not Chinese. The pronunciation's different, the boy called Tuma muttered, clearly fed up. You don't want a good meal? Jiangju teased, squinting at Kamijo Tuma. Do whatever you want, mother, father, as long as the boss is happy. Kamijo Tuma flung himself down and knelt before the food in mock devotion. You're young, Gandalf observed, taking a drag of his cigarette and smiling. You can sigh about that later. The dragonborn girl hasn't arrived yet. She must be held up on some mission, Jiangju said, glancing around the crowded room. Everyone else was curious about Gandalf's commission, but Luster, the Dragonborn girl, was nowhere in sight. Maybe she's delayed. Let's talk about the mission, Gandalf said to Jiangju. Okay. Jiangju cleared her throat and addressed the tavern. Everyone, listen up. Mr. Gandalf is launching the first commissioned task from the tavern today. If you choose to take it, you'll have 1 day to handle an issue in your own world. When the tattoo on your arm, the one that lets you cross the boundary gate, lights up again, that's when you must set off. If you exceed the deadline, you'll face the consequences, and you'll lose the chance to participate in the next commission. As she spoke, the terms she explained appeared on the electronic screen beside the TV, so she didn't have to repeat every detail. And one more thing, Jiangju added, her tone growing serious. I know a lot of you want to visit other worlds and see how different they are, but you must be responsible for your own lives. Don't go looking for death. You will actually die, and I will not take responsibility for that. I can only guarantee that you won't be killed by the client. That's it. No other guarantees. Think carefully before you act. Chapter 37, Dragon Slayer Squad. Jiangju's warning had almost no effect. The tavern was buzzing. Everyone who'd heard about the chance to travel to another world was enthralled. Whether skilled or not, they all wanted to go. This time I need 5 people, Gandalf announced with a smile, looking over the crowd. 5 is enough. One of the spots has already been reserved by Miss Lust, so there are only 4 places left. Only 4. A small groan ran through the room. It was to be expected. No one wanted complete strangers barging into their world. How will you choose who goes? Zeus asked from the side. The King of Gods looked unusually casual in modern clothes, as if he had nothing better to do. 2 things, Jiangju said. First, we must consider the energy limit that the other world can bear. Second, the rest is choice. My taste, Gandalf's taste. It's simple. So the boss gets a say and Gandalf fills in the rest? Poseidon chimed in. Good translation, extra points, Jiangju teased, pointing at him. Poseidon rolled his eyes. Sometimes Jiangju's humor was worse than his brother's. Gandalf's expression turned serious. Our mission is to drive off, or kill, an exceptionally powerful dragon. Smog. He's a fire dragon. If you don't have sufficient strength or influence, please don't take this commission. Even I can't guarantee your safety. What about payment? A tall, muscular, middle-aged man asked with a grin. A set of weapons crafted by the dwarves, Gandalf said. Or, if you don't need weapons, you can take gold instead. Danger and reward understood, Jiangju added. He flicked his fingers, and a soft light enveloped several people. A few stepped forward, heading toward the tavern's wooden door. A hoarse, magnetic voice cut across the room. Relax, Tsunade. No one's going to attack you here. Orochimaru appeared in a purple kimono, followed by a woman with a long blonde ponytail. What's this on us? Tsunade asked, looking at the shimmering display of the New World announcement. It looks like we can go on adventures to other worlds, Orochimaru said, already examining the electronic screen. Gandalf's lucky. Someone with healing skills just happened to show up. Gandalf smiled at Tsunade. I was hoping for that. Your skills could be useful. Nearby, Gandalf's gaze landed on a small black creature, Xiao He, lying in the shadow. Jiangju watched quietly. It hadn't actually been Gandalf who'd noticed Xiao He's unusual nature, but the headmaster of a certain magic school who liked to write scripts. Dumbledore had already told Gandalf about it, which explained Gandalf's reaction. Orochimaru and Tsunade sat down to whisper to each other while keeping one ear on Gandalf's selection. Jiangju thought he saw a strange look in Tsunade's eyes toward Orochimaru and muttered, "Spring is in the air," to himself. Zeus, not to be outdone, pointed at the muscular man and complained, "Why can my son do it, but I, the father, can't?" The man Hercules looked at him mildly amused. Of all the worlds, Zeus couldn't help comparing them. "Please, stop using me," the man said dryly. But Jiangju cut in before Zeus could protest further. Even if you're a god here, barging into another world could be seen as an act of war by its gods. If you go recklessly, you could start an unnecessary conflict. Zeus's face fell a little. But what would you do if a god suddenly appeared in your world? Be friendly and host them tea? That's exactly my point, Jiangju said. So I will make the choice for a few of these people. Gandalf consulted a sheet of notes. Hercules should be interested in the dragon. His strength will be useful. Orochimaru's ninjutsu could help. Tsunade, your medical skills are essential. Orochimaru, Tsunade is more than just a medic, Tsunade said, eyes flashing with quiet confidence. I look forward to your showing us, Gandalf replied, then turned his attention to the last candidate. A man in black robes sat waiting, long black hair, long beard, an air of calm intimidation. When Gandalf addressed him, the man's mouth curved into a slight smile. Since Gandalf invited me, I will go, he said with a measured bow. This was Xiongba, who had recently taken on disciples and was extending his influence. He had found the door to Yuuzhan Tavern not long ago and recognized an opportunity. So that's our four, Jiangju said, raising an eyebrow at Gandalf's choices, but not objecting. We'll wait for Miss Lust, then depart, Gandalf said. She's been late for almost 2 hours, Jiangju observed. Are you sure you want to wait? I trust my intuition, Gandalf smiled. We need her. At that moment, a figure walked through the boundary gate, drawing every eye. Sorry I'm late, she said without fuss. I ran into a fire dragon on the way back to Winterfort. You met a dragon? Someone asked, wide-eyed. From my experience, it was a typical fire dragon, not an elder, Lust explained. Most people who'd never seen a Western dragon couldn't grasp the difference. Xiongba regarded her thoughtfully. He'd heard Jiangju mention that this girl was a humanoid dragon. There seemed to be a lot more dragon-related things in your world. If you're curious, I have a book about dragons, Lust said, smiling, and produced a small volume from her bag. She handed it to Xiongba. There's no time for reading, Gandalf said, clapping his hands lightly. Gentleman and lady, my friends in the other world are waiting. You can read on the way, though you'll probably be too busy. Besides, dragons over there are not exactly like the ones you know. Jiangju snapped his fingers. Once you sign this contract, I'll grant you permission to travel. As an additional note, your battle will be broadcast live. Behave yourselves. He explained the final detail. They had 1 day to prepare. Tomorrow, when the tattoo on the boundary gate flickered, they would be forcibly teleported to Gandalf's destination. Everyone should be ready. We understand, the five nodded, and one by one they signed the contract Jiangju produced. Chapter 38, Orochimaru and Tsunade. After Gandalf made his choice, he hurried off. There was still one crucial piece of the plan he had to secure: a hobbit. Even though warriors from other worlds had arrived to help, Gandalf believed a hobbit's instincts would be invaluable. Hercules drained the wine in his glass and left soon after. There was someone in the tavern whose divine nature reminded him too much of his father. Even his blood reacted to the presence. He didn't want to stay and risk being affected any longer. Zeus, busy with his own concerns, had no time to indulge Heracles' mood swings. Xiongba, on the other hand, stayed. As an aide to the Tianxiahui, he had already accepted Feng Yun and his disciples. Most business could be handled by his senior disciple Qin Shuang. He had developed a fascination with modern history and had adopted the tavern as a kind of library, dropping by whenever he could. By the time Orochimaru and Tsunade arrived, the war was over. Konoha had emerged victorious, but many wounds remained unhealed. For the moment, there were no urgent missions. They had come to speak with the old man of the third generation, Jiangju. Jiangju carried a wooden tray holding 2 glasses and set it down in front of them. Looks like the fighting's done, he observed, taking a seat beside them. Tsunade let out a long breath. Yes, Konoha paid a price, but for now, we won. Orochimaru tasted his wine and raised an eyebrow. This is the same wine you served last time, he said. It seems to enhance chakra. Jiangju smiled. A little something for travelers. Drink up. Tsunade offered a small bow of thanks. Thank you, Jiang-sensei, for everything you did for the rope tree. Her voice was sincere. She wasn't in the mood for levity. Don't make it bigger than it was. Jiangju waved her off. The boy's chance came along, and Orochimaru happened to meet him. If this had been a few years later, even I might not have been able to help. Tsunade's expression grew quieter. She began to tell a story, the history of the Senju clan as she knew it, how after the clan helped found Konoha, fractures emerged in the generations that followed, leaving only a few direct descendants. After many wars and missions, few direct line members remained as active shinobi. Only Naoki and herself were left of the immediate line. Jiangju nodded thoughtfully. Even if I don't agree with everything the first did, I can't deny he was extraordinary. He sipped his wine. People forget that leaders act within their eras. Decisions that seem strange now may have been the only choice then. That much my grandfather used to say, Tsunade replied with a faint smile. He would tell me I was ordinary. I believe him, Jiangju said, then turned to Orochimaru. So what have you been busy with lately? Orochimaru set his glass down. Tsunade and I proposed a formal medical nin training program to the teacher. We want to establish a research institute together to raise Konoha's medical standards. After what I've seen on the battlefield, I don't want our people dying for lack of care. Jiangju's eyes brightened. If you need materials, I can help. 10% discount. The merchant's grin returned. I'm very interested in modern medical systems, Orochimaru said. If you have books, they would be invaluable. The modern medical field is vast, Jiangju replied, half amused, half exasperated. How many books are there on Earth? Yours is just the beginning, but start with the basics. Some of the principles are universal. The differences between worlds are mostly details. Tsunade leaned forward. Those differences, can they be bridged? Our people and the world we live in are very different. Small things, Jiangju waved. Come over here. He pointed to a bookshelf against the wall. There are some foundational texts, theories, anatomy, treatments. They might help you begin. Tsunade rose to accept the offer and walked to the shelf, guided by a young attendant who knew the volumes. As she browsed, Jiang turned back to Orochimaru with a mischievous look he couldn't hide. Heh, he chuckled. So you caught the Princess of Konoha, then? Orochimaru's composure tightened. Please don't say such things, Jiang-sensei. It's not like that. Just because you don't see it doesn't mean Tsunade doesn't have feelings, Jiangju said slyly, and she's not exactly shy about her strengths. He laughed, then grew more earnest. Look, Tsunade is the granddaughter of Senju Hashirama. Even your teacher should show respect. Having someone like her at your side would make your road easier. People who could support you in Konoha either have their own agendas or aren't around. You sound like you're matchmaking, Orochimaru said flatly. Call it concern, Jiangju replied. I noticed Tsunade feels something for you now. Perhaps gratitude, perhaps something that could grow. Love can be cultivated. Besides, without love, life feels incomplete. For a moment, Orochimaru fell silent. Jiangju's words caught at him unexpectedly. He felt tempted, though which part of Jiangju's advice tugged at him he couldn't say. His feelings for Tsunade had long since outgrown simple companionship. They were complex and unsettling, and the idea of acting on them made him uneasy. Jiangju clapped him on the shoulder. I've said my piece. She's a good woman. You're a capable man. Together, you might change Konoha, or even the world. Then he stood and left. Change the world? Orochimaru muttered after him. Can't I do that alone? A soft voice behind him made him turn. Tsunade stood near the shelf, a hint of worry in her tone. What were you talking about just now? You look distracted. If something's wrong, tell me. I can help. Orochimaru studied her. There was something different in the timbre of her voice, a little unease he couldn't name. Perhaps it was nothing more than the awkwardness of Jiangju's teasing, or perhaps it was the stirrings of something more complicated between them. He only knew he felt unsettled, and that whatever came next, he couldn't decide yet. Chapter 39. Natasha lately. Natasha had felt strangely off. Her last mission in the Middle East had dragged her through more darkness than she liked to think about, and even though she'd completed it, she'd come away exhausted in a way a debrief couldn't fix. Then an encrypted message arrived. Your application approved. Location changed to New York. A new address and an airport locker number with a password followed. So much for a vacation, she muttered. She knew a change like that never meant rest. After wrapping up her presence in the region and taking a few circuitous flights to ensure she wasn't being tracked, she finally boarded a plane for New York. She slept a little on the way, watched a movie or two, then followed the locker instructions at the airport to retrieve what awaited her. A storage box containing a key and a new ID. The key fitted a Chevrolet in the airport lot. The new ID gave her an apartment. She found the car where it was supposed to be, let the navigation lead the way, parked, and rode the elevator to the 18th floor. The apartment was sparsely furnished. just enough for what was needed. After sweeping the place for bugs and surveillance until she was satisfied it was clean, she sat at the laptop and plugged in a small device, like a USB stick, to see what her new assignment would be. Nothing. The drive held no file, no orders, no dossier, no decrypted briefing. For a moment, she was almost relieved. No mission meant no immediate danger. She washed up and slept, telling herself that if there were something official waiting, Nick would find it eventually. By noon the next day, she was restless and craving something to blur the raw edges of the last few weeks. She put on light makeup, went downstairs, and noticed a bar across the street from the intersection, an ordinary neighborhood place, a few cars in the lot, a bored middle-aged man at a table inside, a kid outside polishing shoes. Natasha shaded her eyes with sunglasses and crossed over. The bell over the door chimed when she entered, and she paused. The place wasn't ordinary at all. The decor was oddly eclectic, and the clientele even more so, people in clothing from all eras and styles, and even a few who looked barely human. They sat watching a TV with an eagerness she didn't expect, as if some private show was playing. "Welcome to the tavern. I'm Jiangju," a smooth voice said, and Natasha found herself looking at a young man whose features were almost European and well-kept. He had a calm, practiced charm. "Where am I?" she asked, guarded. "You're in the tavern," he smiled. "If you want more, I can explain." He did. "It's a tavern that connects different universes." Natasha's skepticism spiked so fast she felt it physically. Her training had primed her to distrust anything unverified, and this sounded like something out of a storybook. Still, curiosity nudged her to stay. Jiangju offered a drink, a glass of the dew of life, on the rocks. She took it. The drink had a soft, strange clarity. A subtle influence traced through her, like a warm hand smoothing out knots of tension. Nothing dramatic happened, but for the first time in days, she felt a little steadier, more herself. When the effect peaked, an unfamiliar restlessness told her she couldn't linger. "Thanks," she said, reaching for her wallet. She set a $10 bill on the bar out of habit. Jiangju's expression twisted into mild disbelief. "You think the dew of life is $10? "I forgot cash," she said, deflecting. "Can I card it? Credit cards don't work here." He was almost apologetic. "Debit's acceptable, or you can borrow from someone outside, have someone cover it. It's not cheap, $2,400. Natasha blinked. For anyone who didn't know her, that would have been the end of it. But his next words made her hand go still. "You're the famous secret agent queen, Miss Black Widow, Natasha Romanoff," he said with a shrug. "At least, that's the name you used later." She'd been careful with identities. If anyone recognized her so fast, something about this place put her on edge. "Who are you?" she asked. "And what is this place for, really? If I were a villain, do you think I'd tell you?" Jiangju replied lightly, then softened. "I run a tavern quietly. I don't meddle." He didn't press any mental tricks on her. In his trade, compulsion would make people suspicious, and even if he wasn't afraid of being exposed, constant interference meant constant tailing and questions. Complications he didn't want. Natasha listened to him with only a fraction of his charm having any effect. She was already planning to leave and mark the place on her mental map as a potential threat to be reported and investigated. "Fine," Jiangju said when she stood to go. "Pay the $2,400 now, or bring $3,000 when you return with your director. Your choice." $3,000, she repeated, annoyed. "I'll bring it when I come back, or I won't." She left quickly, the bell tolling behind her. Outside, the room fell into quieter conversation. The TV in the corner had gone blank. Two other figures, one older, robed, the other bent and weathered, watched the doorway. The older man, who had the same calm authority as the stories of ancient sorcerers, asked in a soft voice, "Why not let her into the other tavern?" "Another tavern," Jiangju responded. He glanced toward the street where Natasha had disappeared. "That other space is designed to be an ordinary environment the size of a tavern. It's constructed for normal people, real drinks, real food, everything else fabricated as a comfortable illusion." "But she isn't ordinary," the robed man said. He looked at Jiangju with a certainty that bordered on solemn. "You're a guardian of the time stone. You should be able to see the future. She's a hero." Jiangju gave a small, rueful smile. "Exactly. She's not the person you steer into harmless illusions. Letting her wash ashore in a place meant for ordinary folk would do her no favors. Heroes tend to disrupt the plans of very patient, very dangerous things. They fell silent after that, watching the street where Natasha had melted into the city. In a world of strange doors and louder magic, some decisions were made quietly, out of respect for fate or fear of it. For now, the tavern kept its secrets close, and Natasha Romanoff went back into New York, thinking she had nothing but a headache and a high bar tab to complain about. Chapter 40. He's here. He's really here. In his office, in the Trident building in Washington, S.H.I.E.L.D. director Nick Fury was going over recent cases, the strange powers surfacing around the world, the latest mad scientist escapades, everything that needed his attention. He was the one people came to when things escalated. There was a knock at the door. Fury opened it to find Agent Phil Coulson beaming like a kid who'd just found a secret. He looked every bit the friendly, balding uncle, hairline retreat and all. "Looks like you've got a lead, Agent Coulson?" Fury asked. Coulson could barely contain himself. "Not just a lead, sir. We found him, near the crash site. He was frozen inside a huge block of ice. His body hasn't aged at all." "You said a huge block of ice," Fury repeated, feeling a familiar, cautious hope rising in his chest. He looked at Coulson, the most dependable agent on his team. He tried not to let the excitement show. "Is he alive?" "Alive, sir." Coulson finally steadied himself. "We've moved him to the research center. They've built a simulated iceberg to keep him stable and are working on ways to revive him." "Keep on it," Fury said, "and keep people calm. Any experiments or samples have to go through me first." He allowed a small, controlled smile. If they could really bring this person back, it would be more than a scientific triumph for S.H.I.E.L.D. It would be a public symbol that could inspire a new generation to join their ranks. Coulson saluted happily and left, thrilled to be the one guarding his childhood idol. Fury clicked open the files the lab had sent and studied the photos. The man in the dark blue uniform was unmistakable. "Welcome back to the 21st century, Captain," Fury murmured. Before he could dive back into work, someone knocked again. Agent Maria Hill walked in, documents in hand. Fury set the files aside. "I just spoke with Coulson," Hill said, already sure of the news. "They found him?" Fury's encrypted emergency inbox pinged, and he tapped the message open. It was a short, coded note from Natasha Romanoff. Fury let the system decode it and read the few words. "Important news. Please advise next steps. Stay at home. Wait for me to return." Fury shot a quick reply and then looked up at Hill. "Natasha was right to join S.H.I.E.L.D., he said. "There are people who can't get this kind of information. She walked right into it." "We need someone like her to handle younger, unpredictable types," Hill replied. "Arrange a jet. I want to get to New York immediately." Fury stood up. "From admin," Hill blinked. "You want to go in person?" "My gut says this will lead to more clues about the Flash," Fury said. He paused, then asked, "How's the military experiment going?" "No progress. It looks like a failure. Dr. Banner and his girlfriend are still pushing, but everyone else has dropped out." Hill flipped through her notes. "I was going to brief you on it before Natasha's message came through." "Keep an eye on them," Fury said. He headed for the door, then stopped and looked back over his shoulder. "If their experiment fails, tell General Ross we already have Captain America." Maria Hill stared at him for a beat, then couldn't help smirking. Only Fury would be petty enough to deliver that message himself. Thinking about Ross's last arrogant briefing made the idea even more satisfying. Fury took a S.H.I.E.L.D. jet and landed at a discreet airfield in New York. From there, he went straight to Natasha's apartment. He had already warned her he was coming, so she opened the door. "Agent Romanoff," he called, stepping inside. "Lower the gun." Someone in the living room pointed a pistol at him. Fury looked at her, both exasperated and amused. "Really?" Natasha let out a relieved laugh and put the gun in her lap. "Sorry, I'm a little jumpy," she said, smiling. "I thought you were coming because of the burrito we had last time. I liked that burrito. I figured you'd bring one." "I don't remember sharing a burrito with you," Fury said, frowning. "If you needed to verify my identity, there are easier ways." Natasha holstered the pistol and told him everything she'd seen at the tavern in careful detail. As an excellent field agent, her memory was precise. She'd seen things no one should see in one place. a bar that seemed to link countless worlds, strange creatures that shouldn't exist, and evidence that whatever was happening there wasn't the result of drugs or illusions. "Do you think he's telling the truth?" she asked, still unsure. "I checked for hallucinogens and other tricks, but I couldn't find a flaw in what he said." "That's why I'm going to see it myself," Fury said. "And frankly, the place sounds like an opportunity." Natasha frowned. "It's too dangerous for you to go alone. I'm coming with you." "No," Fury said. "You go to the New York branch medical unit first and get a full checkup. If whatever happened there actually made you younger, we can cover it, up to $3,000. He gave a rare half smile that was all business and no tenderness. "I'll handle the tavern." "All right, I'll follow orders," Natasha said. She understood this was about everyone's safety. She wasn't just unwell physically, mentally she was shaken by what she'd seen. Fury walked to the window and peered down. The tavern's sign glowed on the street below. "There's a tavern," written in English, Chinese, and an unfamiliar script. He let a shadow of a smile touch his face. Then he headed out the door.